Watch what happens when a scammer picks the wrong grandma. A man calls an elderly woman, tells her Microsoft detected a virus on her computer, and walks her through installing software that hands a stranger full access to her bank account. Then comes the twist. He tells her the refund he just processed was too large. She needs to mail the difference back, in cash. She agrees. She starts packing a box. Except this isn't a real grandmother. It's a man named Pierogi, using voice-changing software, playing along with every instruction, building a paper trail the scammers don't know exists. Somewhere out there, 2,000 real elderly Americans didn't get that lucky. One of them was a 97-year-old Holocaust survivor who lost her entire life savings. By the time federal investigators were done, they'd charged 28 people in a scheme that stole $65 million, and they did it with help from ordinary people on YouTube. This is the Bust Files. Here's the question worth asking first. How do you convince someone's grandmother to mail strangers her life savings one box at a time? You don't ask for it all at once. You ask for it in a story. It starts with a pop-up. Big red letters. Virus detected. Call Microsoft immediately. A phone number is right there. She calls it. A calm, professional-sounding voice answers. He walks her through installing remote access software, the kind IT support actually uses, which is exactly why it doesn't raise alarms. Now he can see her screen. Sometimes he can move her money. Then the second call. A different voice, sometimes claiming to be from her bank, sometimes the government. He tells her something's gone wrong. A refund was processed for too much. If she doesn't return the difference, she could face legal trouble. The instructions are specific. Withdraw cash, not a check cash. Package it carefully. Mail it to a name and address he'll provide. Here's what should bother you. None of this happens in one phone call in one day. This con runs for weeks, sometimes months. By the time it's over, the victim has mailed cash more than once, believing every single time that this is the last one. And somewhere in Southern California, someone is waiting for that mail to arrive. So who's actually on the other end of that mailbox? According to federal prosecutors, the operation was built like a company with departments. Callers based in India-linked call centers ran the scripts. Coordinators in Southern California managed logistics. Runners collected the packages, sometimes renting properties specifically to receive them. The lead defendant, prosecutors say, was a man named Hua Wang. Between 2019 and 2023, he personally managed over 2,000 cash packages mailed in by elderly victims, totaling $64 million, by his own admission in court. That's not a typo. 2,000 packages. One man, allegedly overseeing the collection point for an operation that size. The network moved fast once cash arrived. In one documented instance, a co-conspirator was stopped by law enforcement carrying $70,000 in cash on his way toward Los Angeles proceeds, prosecutors say, from this exact scheme. For years, this machine ran quietly. The victims were elderly, isolated, and often too embarrassed to tell anyone what had happened. Then, in December 2020, one of them didn't stay quiet. Here's exactly how a fraud running since 2019 finally cracked open, and it started with something almost boring. A single elderly victim contacted her express mail carrier with a complaint. That complaint led investigators to 11 packages sitting in a facility in San Diego containing roughly $135,000 in cash. 11 packages. Not 2,000, a tiny fraction of the full operation. Federal investigators had cash, an address pattern, and almost nothing else. No faces, no names beyond whatever fake identity was scrawled on a shipping label. That's the trick with this kind of fraud. The victims rarely see the collectors in person. The callers never show their faces. Everyone in the operation is, by design, disposable and replaceable. Investigators needed something they didn't have. Someone willing to actually show up in person and confront whoever was collecting these packages. That's when two separate groups of ordinary YouTube creators who had no idea they were about to become part of a federal investigation decided to do exactly that. Here's the part of this story that almost never happens in fraud cases. The people who broke it open weren't federal agents, they were YouTubers. Scammer Payback, run by a creator known as Pierogi, specializes in scam baiting, deliberately engaging fraud callers, wasting their time, and exposing their tactics on camera. Trilogy Media, run by Ashton Bingham and Art Kulik, does something even more direct. They trace where the money is supposed to go, and they show up. Throughout 2020 and 2021, they ran coordinated stings. Pierogi played the victim using voice-changing software to sound like an elderly woman and followed the scammer's instructions exactly. Address confirmed. Package prepared. Then Trilogy Media delivered it in person. One package went to an address connected to a man named Ji Yi Zhang. When Trilogy Media's cameras showed up, Zhang answered the door and, on camera, admitted to receiving packages like this one for cash. They didn't stop there. They handed over their unblurred footage, their rental records, everything they'd gathered, directly to law enforcement. Here's what made this footage so valuable. It wasn't just video. It was evidence prosecutors could actually build a case on. Investigators cross-referenced Zhang's short-term rental bookings against FedEx and UPS shipping records. The math connected him to approximately 59 separate packages, an estimated $1.8 million in victim losses from that address alone. The YouTube videos also helped identify two other collectors, Dudu Chen and Huajian Chen, both named directly in the federal indictments that followed. Think about what that means. A creator with a webcam and a voice modulator, and two guys willing to knock on a stranger's door, had assembled pieces of a federal case that took law enforcement years of additional work to complete. By August 2025, agents were ready. It was time to close the net, not on 3 people, but on the entire network. In April 2025, federal agents arrested Hua Wang at his residence in Flushing, New York. Days earlier, they'd already caught his co-defendant. A woman using the alias Ning Ma was stopped at JFK International Airport attempting to board a one-way flight to China. Wang's arrest triggered a coordinated nationwide sweep. Federal agents moved simultaneously across Southern California, Texas, Michigan, and New York. By the time it was over, more than 30 defendants had been charged in connected indictments. 25 of the 28 originally indicted were in custody. On the 30th of June 2026, Hua Wang pleaded guilty in federal court, the 11th person in this case to do so. Here's the number that should actually stop you. The victims averaged at least 70 years old. One of them was a 97-year-old widow in San Diego, a Holocaust survivor. Prosecutors say she was defrauded repeatedly over time until her entire life savings was gone. She wasn't an outlier. Federal prosecutors said publicly that many victims suffered severe financial hardship and that numerous elderly Americans reported losing everything they had. This wasn't a scheme that stole from people who could absorb the loss. It targeted people who had spent an entire lifetime building savings they could never rebuild. At a press conference announcing the charges, the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of California made a point of crediting exactly who helped make these arrests possible. His words, "Not all heroes wear capes. Some have YouTube channels." Here's the real question this case leaves behind, and it's not about the fraudsters. It's about why law enforcement needed 2 YouTube creators with cameras to do what a 2,000 package, multi-million-dollar operation should have been caught doing on its own years earlier. The uncomfortable answer? Elder fraud rings like this one are built specifically to survive without any single point of failure. No victim sees a face. No caller uses a real name twice. The only fixed, physical point in the entire operation, the one thing that can't be disguised, is the address the cash gets mailed to. That's exactly the seam Pierogi, Bingham, and Kulik found and pulled on. Not through federal subpoena power, through a voice changer, a cardboard box, and the willingness to knock on a door. This case has become a genuine template. Prosecutors have publicly acknowledged scam baiting footage as a legitimate investigative tool, not just internet content. $65 million, 28 defendants, thousands of elderly victims, some who lost everything they'd spent a lifetime building. And the case only fully came together because a handful of people decided to answer the phone instead of hanging it up. 2,000 packages, $65 million, 11 guilty pleas, and counting. Cracked open by a voice changer and a cardboard box. Subscribe. New case file every week. The Bust Files. The money always leaves a trail. We just follow it.